Hey guys, what is up? My name is Megan and welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. I hope you guys are doing well and staying safe, and welcome to today's video, which is one I'm super excited to bring to you guys, but was a little bit daunting in the creation process, and that is a list of all the series I'm currently in the middle of. I will say I have created this video using a spreadsheet, and I'm including everything from like companion series that are romance books to my middle grade series to fantasy to thrillers that have more than one book. Like everything is accounted for in this, and that also includes any manga that I'm also currently reading. So the way I will separate this video is I'll first talk about the DNFs that I have kind of like decided to DNF this year, and then we'll go into the series I'm currently caught up with, and then go by genre of the series I'm currently reading. So there will be timestamps along this video for you guys to see, and I would like for you guys to let me know in the comments down below what I should prioritize for 2025 when it comes to the series I'm currently reading. So without further ado, let's hop on in. So statistically speaking, once I inputted every single book I have on my TBR that is part of a series, whether or not I have started the series, the total was actually 123 series, or at least like I own one book in that series. Out of the 123, I am in the middle of 32 series, a whopping 32, and have DNF'd 2 series this year. So the 2 series I have DNF'd, I will like insert photos of here. The first is the Good Girl's Guide to Murder series by Holly Jackson. I read the first book, really enjoyed, but then I heard some not so great stuff about the rest of the series, and I read the first book so long ago that I decided to just cancel out that series and cancel out Holly Jackson in general. I read a few of her things. They're fine, but I won't commit to like reading an entire series by her. I will say her adult book is interesting, but then again, not even sure I'll pick that one up. And the other series I have DNF'd is the Daughter of the Pirate King series by Trisha Levenseller. I read the first 2 books when they originally came out, and I love that duology. It will remain one of my favorites. However, I am not committing to reading the 3rd book in that series. But it exists, so I do have to say that I'm like DNFing because I'm not reading the 3rd book, which is kind of like a spin-off series to the Daughter of the Pirate King. So those are the 2 things I decided I will not be continuing with. Then the series or companion novels I am up to date with, we have The Heartbreaker Chronicles by Ali Novak, which includes The Heartbreakers and Paper Hearts. Oh god, why do I never remember? I did have a sneak at my bookshelf, and it is indeed Paper Hearts. Technically, those 2 are published. They are some of my favorite YA books of all time. The 3rd book is on like Wattpad, but it's never been physically published. So I did not go ahead and read the 3rd book on Wattpad because for years I've been waiting for it to like be physically released. Though I don't know if that will eventually happen or not. But if it doesn't in the upcoming year, I would like to read the 3rd book via Wattpad. So technically I'm caught up, but there is more to read, though it's not traditionally published. And the other book I am caught up with is technically The Chronicles of Weatherwhy by Anna James, and that is because there's only one book out so far. I don't even know when book 2 will be coming out, but that is a series I'm obviously committing to. I've talked about it so much on my channel recently, and so I needed to put it on this list because even though there's only one book, I have read the book when it came out, and I'm up to date with the series so far. Now, we'll go into manga first, then we'll do fantasy, middle grade, and end with romance. Let's get going. I am currently in the middle of 2 manga series that I am continuing or planning to continue into 2025 or later. The first one being Blue Lock. This is a manga series I found in 2020, like early 2024. Why did I say 2020? Like January and February. I binged the first, I want to say 6 installments, and the thing is, there's like 30 installments of Blue Lock or 31. However, not all of them are translated to English, but there are like 12 or 13 of them, I believe, which have been translated. So I am like halfway through what is available to me, but I still need to make a lot of work. But I love Blue Lock. It's my favorite manga I've ever read, and so obviously I want to keep going with that series. And the other which I started is A Man and His Cat, which again, I'm not sure how many installments of this were published in English, but I am only one volume into this one, though I absolutely adored it. It's literally about a man and his cat, and I think it's like the most wholesome thing. So these are the two manga series I have read in the recent years that I'm committing to continuing into 2025. In regards to mystery thrillers, there's only one, because obviously a lot of mystery thriller series are standalones, though I know it's becoming more of a fashion to not make them standalones, but the only one I have read and am committing to reading further is this series, which, what is the name of the series? The Rachel Craw series. I read The Night Swim a few years ago and absolutely loved it, and recently, I think either in 2023 or 2024, Megan Golden came out with a sequel which is called Dark Corners, which is what I still need to read. So I am technically 1 out of 2 with this series, and honestly, it's a real joy. I love this, though it has been a few years, which is why I haven't picked up Dark Corners straight away, though I do own it. It's just like I think I would need to reread The Night Swim before I can go into it, but that is the only thriller series I am currently in the middle of. Moving on to fantasy, the first series I am currently in the middle of is The Stormlight Archives by Brandon Sanderson. I have read the first 3 books in the series. There are 5 books released, and that will be the end of Era 1 of Stormlight. I have book 4, but book 5 came out like 2 days ago at the time of filming this, so I have not yet purchased book 5, but I do own its audiobook. So 3 books down, 2 to go in this series, which absolutely revolutionized my life in 2024. Brandon Sanderson has become my obsession. If you are new here, I talk about him a lot now, which I'm like entering my fantasy girl era, so the list for fantasy is pretty short, but this is definitely like priority number 1 over everything else in the fantasy section. Then remaining on the Brandon Sanderson train, we have the secret projects, which there are 4 of. Tress of the Emerald Sea is the one I have read and completed and absolutely fell in love with, like obsessed. I will leave my deep dive of Tress down below and in the cards for you guys. Absolutely loved it. I have tried to read Yumi and the Nightmare Painter, but that was before I really got into fantasy, though I had DNF'd it, but I'm still wanting to go back to this Secret Projects because I'm very interested in the second book, which is like the wizard one, and there's also the Sunlit Man, and maybe I'll go back to Yumi, but for now my priority is very much the wizard story and Sunlit Man if I ever eventually get a copy, but I am in the middle of this Secret Project series and would like to revisit more of the works in 2025. And the last book I have on my fantasy list, I will pop a picture up here. It is the Malazan Book of the Fallen. There are 10 books in the Malazan series. I own pretty much all of them, though I have only read 1, and I say that like it's nothing, but that book is the first book I read that's epic fantasy. Probably a bad move on my part. Highly influenced move, but not the best one. But I am planning on continuing this after I finish with my Brandon Sanderson era. So I'm not sure 2025 is the year I'm going to continue this series, but technically I have started it. I have made progress, finished book 1, and will be continuing on probably in like 2026 is like very ambitious of me to say, but it's not like first on the docket, but it's a series I am in the middle of and will keep going with. Moving on to middle grade, the first I am in the middle of is the Amari and the Night Brothers series. I have read 2 of the 3 books currently out, though I am making my way through the 3rd book at the time of filming this, so I'm almost caught up with the series. I love Amari and the Night Brothers. It's one that's like a no-brainer. If there are, I think there's at least 5 books that will be coming out total. If there are more, I will continue to read them. I do not care. There could be 100 Amari books and I'd read all of them, but for now, there are 3 out and I have read 2 of them. We then have the Ember Spark series, and I have read the first book in the Ember Spark. I don't know how many books this series will encompass. Right now there are 2 out, both of them which came out in 2024, which is insane to me, and I have really enjoyed this and purchased the 2nd book. So I have the 2nd book to read and then I'm all caught up. Though I don't know if it's going to be a duology or like an actual series, a trilogy. I don't really know what the plans are, but I will be keeping on with this series. It's super short. It's like very much younger middle grade, but I absolutely love the story. Then we have the Fireborn trilogy by Aisling Fowler. I have read the first book in this series as well and need to keep going with books 2 and 3. I absolutely loved my time with the first book. This was almost a 5-star read for me, like a 4.75. The pacing of this in the beginning was a little bit tricky, but once you get into the story, it's fantastic. I do own the second and third book as well, and this is a completed series, so once I am done, I can be done with Fireborn, which is great. Then we have The Mystic School of Musicraft by Jessica Corey. This is a little bit tricky because I don't usually count, and I did not say this in the beginning, novellas. I am not a novella girly, and I don't count them because sometimes there's like a 1.1, a 1.5, a 2.5, and I don't necessarily read those. But I did read the prequel to Mystic School of Musicraft, which was a small audiobook, and I have read book 1, and there are books 2 and 3 that are currently out as well. So I'm technically like 2 out of 4 for this series, which again, absolutely love. Every book I talk about that I have a review for, I will leave them in the description for you guys. This is a fantastic one. We then have the Adventures on Train series by FJ Leonard and Sam Sedgman. This is a 6-book series. It is complete, and I have read book 1. So again, very behind. This is a series that I've dabbled in the idea of doing a read-along for 2025 because there are 6 books. I think we could do like 1 book every 2 months, and that would like kick my butt into gear into reading them before the end of 2025. If you are interested in that, please let me know down below. I will also post a poll on my community page to see if there's any interest in this kind of a read-along. I promise to commit more than my read-alongs in 2024 because that was a fiasco. Speaking of fiascos, Keeper of the Lost Cities was supposed to be my read-along for 2024. I failed spectacularly, and I apologize yet again. But I have read book 1. I think there's currently like 9 books out though. Keeper of the Lost Cities is one of those series that does 0.5 books. I think like 9.5 came out this year, and I don't know how relevant it is to read the little books in the series. I believe there are set to be 10 books total, and maybe book 10 is coming out in 2025. I know the author, I think, pushed it back because she got pregnant. So I don't know what the end of the series entails, but I mean, there's still like 8 books I need to read, so she can take her sweet time. This is another one I obviously want to continue. It's a bigger commitment because it's a longer series, but I've enjoyed my time so far. Then some books I am currently, well, not currently, but have been reading through audiobook is the Percy Jackson series by Rick Riordan. I read the books a long time ago, never got through book 5 because it's a whole story, not gonna get into it, but I'm re-listening to them and have read like books 1 through 3, but I would probably want to revisit the whole thing. I had a project for 2025. I'm not sure if it's one I'm going to prioritize, but it's like to read the entire Riordan verse. So we'll see, but technically we're starting from scratch with Percy Jackson. So it's like, I have read some of the books, but we'll say like 0 out of 7 because there are now 7 books in the Percy Jackson series. With that, I did a few years ago dabble into the Trials of Apollo by Rick Riordan. I read 1 book in that series and I was absolutely obsessed. I loved the narration style for this one on audio. The book is so funny, but I am putting off this series because I want to read them in order. So Percy Jackson, then Heroes of Olympus, and then move on to kind of like the side quest stories. But it's one I did technically start, so I'm in progress with it. Might reread the first book for the fun of it once I get to the series, but technically it's on my list of series I want to continue. Then we have the Skandar series, which I know I never shut up about, but I am 2 for 4 in this series. We got books 3 and 4 in 2024, which are the books I need to read, but I have read books 1 and 2, have a lot of content surrounding this series on my channel, which I'll leave down below, but I need to get a move on. My ideal goal is to finish book 3 by the end of 2024, go into 2025 reading the 4th book, and be ready for when book 5 releases. We don't currently have a date for that, but I'm assuming, or at least hoping, it's in 2025 before A.F. Stedman publishes her adult debut. So should be done by the end of 2025, mark my words. And the last middle grade series I am in the middle of is the Dragon Realm series. The first book being Dragon Mountain, which I've read, but that is the only book I've read in the series so far. I do also own some books in the spin-off series, but the core series for the Dragon Realm has 5 books in it. So 1 down, 4 to go. It's a theme. I start a lot of series, don't commit to a lot of them, which is why one of my goals for the book bingo from hell for 2025, which again, we'll leave that somewhere for you, is to complete 5 series. From start to finish, be done with it. Not just caught up, be done. So some of the series here, I hope, are some of the series I choose to commit to in 2025. But again, do let me know what you guys want me to prioritize. Finishing off with the biggest category, which is a romance. For the sake of not destroying all of my bookshelves, I will include photos for the romance section because it's a lot and we need to get through it. So, first on my list is the Cheat Sheet by Sarah Adams. Technically, this is a companion series. We have the cheat sheet and the rule book. I have read and absolutely love the cheat sheet, and then haven't read the rule book, which, did the rule book come out this year or last year? Can't remember, but it is the one I need to read to complete that duology, I guess. I don't know if she's planning on coming back and writing more books in the cheat sheet, but for now, those are the 2 we are known to have. Sticking with Sarah Adams, I also have the When in Rome series. I have read the first book, When in Rome, and own Practice Makes Perfect, and I also want to read the 3rd book, Beg, Steal, and Borrow, when it comes out in 2025. Technically, right now, at the time of filming this video, I'm 1 out of 2, but January 7th is the release of the 3rd book, so technically I'm 1 for 3 in this companion series. Then we have some Stephanie Archer with Queen's Cove. I read the first book, which is That Kind of Guy. Another absolute stunner of 2024. I love that book. It's a Canadian author. It's set in Canada. I love the vibes. There are 3 more books in that companion series that I need to read. I'm very excited for The Wrong Mr. Right. I had started reading it, but I had to put it down, but I'm excited to get back to it. It's another priority for me in 2025. So hoping to get some of that completed, or at least read the 2nd book before the end of 2025. Then we have the Dreamland Billionaire series by Lauren Asher, which I have read 1 of the 3 books in that series, which was the fine print. Absolutely love the fine print, and then never came to read terms and conditions or the final offer. I own them, should read them. I love Lauren Asher. I have read a little bit of her works, but I'm excited to dabble more into it in 2025, hopefully. Then a series I haven't talked about for ages, but have been telling myself I need to continue because the obsession was so real with the first book. It's one of the only books that has kept me up all night reading on my Kindle. I was giddy the entire way through, and that is the Phenomenal Fates series by Tessa Bailey, which I am low-key known to be a Tessa Bailey hater. I have hated everything I've tried from Tessa Bailey except this, which is a paranormal romance series. It's indie published. I feel no one has ever talked about this. I think I've talked to 1 or 2 subscribers who have read this. No one else seems to, but I loved it. I was obsessed with book 1, and there are 3 books in the series. I own all 3 of them, so maybe I'll reread book 1 as well. If anyone wants to buddy read, do let a girl know. Then another disaster. I cannot believe I haven't read the 2nd book. It's the Mendel Hawk series by Deanna Gray. I read the first book. When I tell you, it became my entire personality. I was obsessed. It's all my favorite tropes. But there's another book in the series called Team Players, and I really need to get to it. I was gifted this book by Jason, I believe, a couple of years ago for my birthday now, and still haven't gotten to it, which is atrocious because I was like, I need it now. I want to read it now. It's the theme of this video. I did not read it now. But that means I'm 50% done with the current books out in the series. I don't know if she's planning on going back to it or not, but I hope she does. Then we have the Cherry Tree Harbor series by Melanie Harlow. Again, companion novel series. I have read 1 book in that series, and I think there are 4, though they were picked up by a publisher and they're being republished, and the book I'm missing in the series to read all of them is being published in 2025, so I have to wait, though I can make some headway with like the other 2 books I own. I did read this one out of order. A lot of people hate that I do this, but for companion series and romance books, I'll pick up the book with the like most interesting tropes first. If I like that, I go back and reread, because what are you gonna spoil? A happily ever after? I don't do that for the rest of my books. I don't read a fantasy series out of order. I don't read a middle grade series out of order, but a romance, like what are you gonna spoil? Nothing. So don't come for me. Then we have the Small Town series by Stacey Hart, which Stacey Hart does not get the love she deserves. I love Stacey Hart. I've read the first book, Bet the Farm, another obsession of mine, another 5-star read, but did not continue with Friends with Benedict, which I didn't even realize were in the same world. Storygraph taught me something when I was doing my little charts, but it is. So 50% done with that series so far. Then we have the Campus Wallflower series by Rebecca Genchak, which Rebecca is another find of 2024 that is like chef's kiss. I have read the first book, which is Tutoring the Player. Was obsessed. Need to continue. I have decided to incorporate romantasy in my romance column because I read a lot of like more epic fantasy or fantasy that does not have romance in it. So for me, it's just easier to categorize the few I have within the romance genre. So we have Assistant to the Villain, which I have read the first book. The second book is out as well, but not the third. It's coming out in 2025, but technically right now I just need to read the second book to be up to date. Then we have the Windsor series by Katharina Mara, which is another author I found and became obsessed with in 2024. I read the second book in that series, went back and purchased the first book. There are a total of 6 books in the series. We follow 6 different brothers that are billionaires, planning to read all of them because I devoured the book I read by her. Like, it was crazy. So it's a high priority for 2025. Watch me curse myself in editing because like, I'm not gonna read all these series in 2025. I'm like, it's a priority, it's a priority. Your girl's not gonna do it. I really need to like prioritize the priorities, but I don't know where to start. So I really need you guys to like pull through and tell me what I should read. It must be annoying also to hear like, I'm excited about this. This is a priority. Like, obviously this video is all about the priorities I haven't prioritized. We have 3 left. One of them is the Starstruck series by Susanna Nix, which is another underrated gem. I love Susanna Nix. The Starstruck series is fantastic. The cover is a little cringe. She even redid them. Not the biggest fan of the covers either way. I do have a little bit of the old covers, a little bit of the new covers, but the stories tackle important topics with some light, fluffy romance. Some of my favorite tropes, I'm obsessed. I have read 2 of the 4 books in that series. I read books 2 and 3, so I have 1 and 4 left. Oops. We're down to the last 2. Thank God. One of them being Cinder and Ella by Kelly Oram. This is a weird thing because like the series, depending on what site you go to, says there's like more than 1 book, but technically I have read Cinder and Ella and I want to read the sequel to Happily Ever After, and I think that rounds out the kind of like duology because we're following like, this is a straight up series, it's not companion novels, and I think Cinder and Ella is cringe. I acknowledge that. I love cringe sometimes. I think sometimes it's good for the mental health. I loved Cinderella when I read it years back. It's like tabbed everywhere. Had a great time. Would reread before going into Happily Ever After because it's been a while, but I'm obsessed. And the last series on my list is the Palm South University by Candy Steiner. There are 7 books. It's like a TV reality series. It's very much like everybody sleeping together and sleeping with other people. It's dramatic. It's like new adult. It's set in a hot setting, and I loved the first book because it was really like watching an episode of a reality series, but reading it with your eyeballs 100 times better. So those are all the series. Let me know down below how many series you're in the middle of, what I should prioritize, and insert this emoji if you made it this far, and I'll see you very soon with another video. Bye guys, happy reading.